Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Curiosity with Mz.ChiGurl. It's me again with the latest hot topics and thought-provoking questions. And I have another guest host. Today we have Syd. Hi, Syd. Stop laughing, Syd.
Hi, Mz.ChiGurl. Hi, listeners. Thank you for having me.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I understand, we're being anonymous and everything, but just generalizations about you.
Sure. So, I have worked in the corporate space, quote unquote, for about 15, 20 years or so. Right now, I specialize in HR, strategic management, change management, org development. So yeah, that's my my professional background.
Right. You go, girl. Hi.
You're so silly.
All I was gonna say is I'm gonna talk about how I met you and how I'm proud to hear all
Here
this
we
stuff.
go. Okay, let's go.
So everybody, I have known Syd for, let's see, is it 25? It's probably 25 years, around the same age as my son, because he was a baby screaming at your job.
Yes, he was. Very undermure.
Oh my God. Leave my baby alone. He was happy. He was screaming because he was happy.
Yes,
anyway.
That's what it was.
Don't do that. My baby was happy.
He was. That's what it was. I know. No fisticuffs over the baby. Yes, he was a very happy, audibly happy baby.
And so, guys, like I said, I'm just happy to have her here, and she is very accomplished, and I'm very happy to have her as my friend. And I love to check in with her every once in a while, to find out what's going on in her life. She used to crack me up with her weekend stories, but she's a grown up now.
Yeah, I was young. I was a child of the streets, and now I'm a saved Christian woman that likes to stay in house.
Also, I gotta tell you guys this, because we talk generations here on my channel, Syd. So I'm a Gen Xer and she's a millennial, and she always used to talk about how much older I am than she is. And so it was funny when she got in a corporate workspace and had to meet her, younger counterparts.
Yeah, that was an interesting shift. It was like the changing of the guards of like me making references and people looking at me even currently. Some people on my staff are Gen Zers, and hearing the insults or seeing the blank stares in response to my my pop culture references is quite embarrassing, but also hilarious to me. So yes, I now feel what you probably felt, and what I thrived in making sure I acknowledged or made you reminding you that you were a Gen Xer.
Oh man, you used to crack me up. I would say such and such came out. Oh, I was in kindergarten. Like, bitch.
I certainly was. And now, even yesterday, somebody said like, oh, I was a junior in college. And I was like, I was a manager. Like I was full swing into my career, about to go to grad school. That's wild. So yes, life comes at you fast. That's also the lesson. Life comes at you fast.
Okay, so about today's topic. So I wanted to talk to you, and the reason why I invited you to come on this channel is because I wanted to talk about the latest trending hot topic news that I heard about. Just hilarious. And what's happening at the Breakfast Club. Are you familiar with that situation?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Jess Hilarious a little bit, just from her social media platform before she started with the Breakfast Club. But yes, I am up to date with the recent events at the Breakfast Club.
Okay. So I had a lot of questions, and I was like, the perfect person to ask is Syd. So let
Okay.
me ask you.
All right.
So, out of curiosity, do you feel like her situation sounds like a toxic work environment? Or do you feel like her situation is more of what we find in corporate America, where, oh, I didn't even get into it. Where there are highly qualified, skilled Black women, and they do like the Highlander and says that there can only be one.
Mm.
And so they pit her or them two against one another, or created a situation where they were pitted against one another. So what are your thoughts?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that it actually, I don't think it's yes, I think it's a toxic work environment, but I think that's too broad. I think what it is, because I think in a few of her clips, just likened the Breakfast Club seems like the culture to be akin to East Side High. That's from your generation. What's the name of that movie? You know the movie.
It was Lean on Me.
So it was so. When I say it's a broad, that's a broad topic or a broad stroke to put on it. I think oftentimes it's reflective of just the workplace culture. So I think when you say toxic work environment, I know people understand that to be culture, but that is very common culture. I don't, if we de-identify those Loren and Jess for being Black women, I think it's fairly common, just in general, because usually toxic work environments are thrive in the space of miscommunication and confusion. And oftentimes I have on a whiteboard of mine is that people see conversation as conflict, so they avoid it. So I think that's just an opportunity of a breakdown in communication. But to your last point, I don't think I think it's when we talk about the personalities of Jess and Loren and the roles that they play and what the conflict seem to be about. I honestly think it's a demonstration or example of when you have a skilled hire, somebody who can do the job, versus a personality hire. And so it's one of those people where you're like, oh, I can train them on the technical side of things. That's just hilarious. But you have somebody who may not pop on camera or be as engaging, but they got all the technical skills. So it's almost like it seems as though those producers trying to get a 2-for-1 and put them in the same room. And once Jess, announced she was pregnant and ultimately had to be on maternity leave, they pitted them against them by throwing Loren in the mix in the first place because they knew she was going to rise to the top by way of just selecting her, right, from her being a Black woman, etc. So I think they both are being used. So yeah, I guess pitting to your point, then yeah, maybe they are being pitted against each other, but I think it really is an example, just to summarize it, of a toxic work environment where there's just a lack of communication and they want to thrive in that, but also a personality hire versus a skilled hire, someone who fits the requirements and the preferred experience more to the T.
Okay, so my next question is, did you know that Jess Hilarious actually picked Loren to replace her while she was on maternity leave?
Yeah, and that's why I say I think she got played, right? Like, I think Jess, yeah, why was Loren even an option? They knew what they were doing. Like, I don't know who the other options were, but I'm sure behind the scene, Jess Hilarious is, and I could be speaking out of turn, so I'll say that now, is an example of somebody who just didn't get the PR training. Like, they don't have, she admitted herself, I didn't go to college. I didn't do these things. So sometimes what people forget about when you get, when you receive a certification or a degree, and you and I both went to college is about, the, classroom assignments and making sure you understand the, whatever your major is. That's fine, but a lot of it is that socialization of knowing how to talk to a professor or advocate for yourself or, work through group projects when you're dealing with difficult personalities. That's just something Jess Hilarious hasn't had. And so I'm sure behind the scenes when she was picking her person, Loren was a producer. Why was she even in the mix to be an on-screen personality? That generally doesn't work that way. So I feel like she was played a little bit. Just
so you think they put her, or when I say they, I'm saying you think that her producers or her bosses said, "Hey, pick Loren," kind of thing, or do you think it was that maybe Jess was cool with Loren and they talked around the office and she was like, hey girl. And she was like, I'm going on maternity leave and, I always want to put a sister up, help them grow or whatever.
You know what?
So she just didn't research it. It's kind of like, I don't know if you
yes.
remember Loving. You said what? Go ahead.
Yes and yes. That's why I'm saying she got played. 100%. It is on her. You talking about Jess? Yes. But so we're jumping to what side we're on the, yes, I believe. No, I'm just.
Actually, and wait. And before we get too deep into this, let me just play a little bit of the audio just so that our listeners have context, just in case they haven't heard what was going on earlier this week. So I'm just going to play a little bit because I don't want to get hit with like a copyright strike or anything like that. So let me know if you can hear this, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she's number 9 right now. Okay. Because I was sitting at home last night trying to watch magazines, Dreams.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay.
People like, just Larry's going off on live. Oh, we have audio. Okay.
We're supposed to be a team of that. Not one person comes to my defense at all. Like, when I'm, not one ever with this online. Come on, I've been quiet a lot. If Jess Hilarious is quiet, it's some other reason. I always got my mouth open. All the time. It's ran like a high school. It is. Fair East Side High.
I agree with that.
Fair East Side.
Fair point.
For Mr. Clark, though. Every day, and they always talk about, you ain't at work. Yeah, I started picking up more shows. Hell no. That's how I'm getting. Hell no. I have more fun outside the radio than I have in there now. Is you crazy? No, act like that. No, act like that's not for real. Act like nobody knew that. Stop acting like y'all, like,
what part?
Really.
What you mean we don't have you?
I have more.
Break that down. Explain how we don't have you.
Okay. All right. So the narrative, like I said, with the online ish, that's what I said. Y'all ain't nobody trying to clear up no narrative about nothing. Ever since I came back, it was weird. Yes, it was weird. Yeah, I at first, no, I did not. I wasn't too fond of Loren. No, I wasn't too fond of her when I came back because we had a whole plan. Even how when I came back, how I pick her to fill in for me, right? I come back, she ain't never leave. Then, all right, cool that she don't leave, but she's on only during my segment. If she was meant to be a fourth host, move her in another way. Why she got to be moved in on? Because nobody had a problem with Jess with the mess until she started reading right. You know what I mean? Until she started reporting. I wasn't hired as a reporter. I was hired as Jess with the mess. So she started reading and delivering details and all that stuff.
Yes.
Then that's when Jess with the mess wasn't good enough no more. That's how it was presented. So I'm like, all right, cool.
I feel who said that, though? Because of the internet said
what
that?
are we talking about? No. This is everything. This is our listeners. This is yeah. Why can't we worry about the comments? And these are people that enjoy the show and watch the show. It's not all about Instagram. It's YouTube. It's like we have people that have been watching the show. Yeah, she's great at what she do. That's why I picked her to fill in for me. But when I came back, it's like, what's going on? If she's going to be a fourth voice, why she only got to be a fourth voice?
She wasn't a fourth voice. She was a producer. She was hired as a news producer to help with getting all news and doing interviews. She was going to be the senior news producer. She wasn't on there. When you came back, Loren was not on there. She was in the back doing questions, sending interview questions, reporting the news. Am I lying? I thought
she was on
okay, so I'm going to stop it there. So, based on what you heard, so you still think that she was played, or did she play herself?
Both. When I re-listened to it, honestly, so I'm gonna play it on both sides. If I was Jess and I knew I lacked the skills, like the technical skills, you always should be in self-preservation mode in the workspace. Like, this is work. This is not a social club. This is work. So you should have been a little bit more discerning when you are interviewing your temporary replacement. You choose somebody less than you. They'll do. So Jess, you played yourself, because at the end of the day, this is a business. And I think that's what I was talking about, Jess, in her trajectory to get into this position, is she just doesn't have, and I may be speaking out of turn, the experience of playing office politics. You and I know, Mz.ChiGurl, you and I both know that there is a delicate balance that you're always playing, because these people aren't your friend at the end of the day, especially someone new. So unless you had chance to vet them, because you and I talked about how we're friends now after all of these years, and that came through building trust, shared experience, etc. She didn't have that time. So her replacement is her competition. You should. It sounds ridiculous, or it sounds too. I don't know. I think people just don't like that concept of it, but that's the truth of the matter. So that's Jess. So on the other side of the business that is the Breakfast Club, they have to a responsibility. They have to respond to what the listeners and viewers are saying. They have an obligation, a fiduciary obligation, to be honest. And so if someone is telling you, your audience is telling you, we like her better, I don't care, Jess. Sorry, it sucks. We're gonna give her more airtime. So it's both in that aspect, and people just don't like to hear it, but that's the reality of it all. So if Jess didn't want Loren to come in and steal her shine, and she can acknowledge she's a journalist, she's a reporter, she went to school for this, why you choose her?
Okay. What do you think about the situation when she came back from maternity leave, and how the powers that be handled the situation? Should there have been a conversation, or should things have just been like, let's see how things go?
No, there should be communication, right? Because like I just said, communication, conflict equals chaos. So that's what they're dealing with now. And to be fair, they're reaping the benefits, because you and I are talking about this now. It has, trend on social media. And now they went on the air to have this conversation where I think someone was even in the YouTube comment stating like, I feel like I'm at an office meeting. Yeah, I just felt like I was, or I feel like I'm in HR office. I'm like, yes, this looks like a normal run-of-the-mill Tuesday. Syd, can we talk to you real quick? And this is the type of stuff that we get pulled into to kind of mitigate. So yeah.
Okay, so if this is what it typically looks like, I'm sorry, but my experiences at HR haven't been that great. So if Just for the Mess came to HR with her situation, telling you that she doesn't feel supported, she doesn't feel like things were communicated, it feels like a high school situation, how would you have handled it? I mean, it's my understanding that HR is always for the company. And actually, I've experienced that. I recently went to HR about a situation between me and my boss, where I felt like I wasn't supported, and that things, that he took offense and got upset about things that were personal when it was business. And then when I went to HR and told him about the microaggressions and so forth that I felt I was getting, and that I would be retaliated against in my annual review, I was told that was slander and I couldn't say those things. So how do you handle those type of situations fairly, where employees feel balanced and supported, as opposed to, if it was me, I probably after that would have blown up. I probably would have been on the air and like, yeah, you guys did this. Like, how do you handle those type of situations, like this situation?
Well, I always start with role clarity. Now, Mz.ChiGurl, you know what? That's just not like, because Mz.ChiGurl and I used to work together at some point, and so she's seen me talk to clients in a certain way. So it's all about role clarity. So I don't care if, a lot of people, I will acknowledge, a lot of people do feel like HR is for the organization. And I'll have to remind them, like, we are agnostic. respectfully, I don't care, right? Like, I genuinely don't care. I don't, and I mean this respectfully. Like, if someone thinks that I go to sleep and have my right hand over my heart saying allegiance to the organization that pays me, that's ridiculous. That's not what I do. And conversely, if you think I wake up and think about you as an employee and say, like, how can I ensure my company sticks it to them? That's ridiculous. I don't care about you that much. What I do care about is policy, practice, and protecting. And so protecting falls under risk mitigation. So if someone comes to me and says, like, ultimately, I think your first question before this question was, should they have had a conversation? Yes, very clearly. When somebody comes back from a leave, that's a job protected leave to ensure that your job is not eliminated or someone is hired within your role. Then you should have the discernment. HR, our role is to anticipate, predict based on human behavior. That's genuinely our job. And so you should anticipate naturally when someone comes back and a person is going to play any level of a role that, let me back up. If someone goes on a leave and they had someone working in their role in an interim capacity, if they come back and that person is still there, you should have inserted yourself as HR to ask those managers who be mitigating on the ground, hey, what's your plan? So that's usually what I ask in general, like, hey, XYZ is coming back in 2 weeks. What's the plan? You had this temporary, what's the plan? And so honestly, you should have that plan in place before they leave. You already know, like, somebody's having a baby. That's pretty predictable. Now, other leaves happen where it's sudden and you can't necessarily anticipate it. But for a baby, it's literally time bound, right? For the most part. Mm-hmm. So you should have had that conversation and planned up front. So that's one. Now, if Jess would have came to me as HR to answer your question directly, I always ask, like, what is your desired outcome? Start there.
Okay.
Like, what are you looking for? Because I always tell people, like, HR, I don't do the work. Like, I can't force people to make a certain decision that you want them to make. And that is on the manager side and on the employee side. So I'm often asking, before you start, what is your desired outcome? Because I can then tell you fairly quickly what things are in place to help you get along those lines. So it might be a policy that I can just tell you very clearly in black and white, like, no, they're not allowed to retaliate against you. And if you see these things, then we have to investigate signs of retaliation. So you come to me and we will have to formally open an investigation. But if you are, and I'm taking Just Hilarious out of it, well, let's just throw something ridiculous where she said, I want Loren to be fired and no longer be a producer. I'd be like, that's not going to happen. I can tell you, like, I'm just going to let you know right now, but what is it? Now, one thing that came up in that conversation with Envy and Charlamagne, and I think Charlamagne said something to Just, is a lot of times when people come to HR, they're like, I feel. And I always say, at least once a week, I've said, all right, feelings are not facts. I can't work with feelings. I genuinely can't. I can hear you. And that's when I say, okay, well, I'm going to redirect you typically back to that person and say, have you talked to them? Have you shared this information? So I'm going to give you communication tactics to say, hey, do you want me to join that meeting? So I've sat in and been like a moderator between the manager and the employee. However, if it's a continual breakdown in what it is communication, I have nothing, as Whitney says. I have nothing more to give to this. I'm not a babysitter. I am not your pseudo manager. If you all can't work it out and me talking to management and that employee, I oftentimes then tell that employee, what do you want to do? Because they're not violating any policies. But if you're feeling disrespected, dismissed, unheard, etc., I'm not trying to push you out the door, but as a person, do you want to work in that environment? Because I also can't change that. I can't change the culture. Can't. Simply. The culture is made up of the people who are participating in it. And if we can acknowledge this person is going to be in their role forever and they're not violating any policies and you haven't said they are, then guess who's going to win that Like, you're going to either get to the point like Jess, and you're going to get outside your body and start talking on live and potentially jeopardize your own contract, where they can cancel or just simply not renew it. That's going to be on you. Is it worth it? And so that's typically my conversations with employees. I will acknowledge there's a lot of HR folks that just don't have that mindset. They are just pretty much, is it a policy violation? Okay, no. And then they are not seeking for any type of resolution. They're just more so like, figure it out on your own. And the hiring manager, let me know when you want to terminate them or if you want to do any form of corrective action.
And it's funny that you say this. One thing that you said is actually what I asked for in my situation, but I'm going to tie both of them in. So what Jess Hilarious is talking about is that she doesn't feel supported in her situation, and she basically feels uncomfortable in her work situation. And that's the kind of sentiment that I expressed to HR. And I asked for mediation, and they told me they no longer do that. So I thought that was funny. Anyway.
I mean, to be fair, not to know, like, because I do not speak on behalf of all HR professionals, but I will say the following. It may not be applicable to your situation, but one, everybody is short staffed. It's emotionally taxing for us every time somebody reaches out to HR. It's a problem. It's never a good thing, right? So this is the job we signed up for. And so mediating, especially on the boots on the ground when it's interpersonal conflict, becomes unsustainable. Because sometimes it's like, what exactly do you want me to say besides, hey, Mz.ChiGurl has something to say. Hey, manager, you're over talking. It becomes a babysitter. And then when you talk to both parties, it's like, I want to terminate them or I want a new manager. No and no. So I'm not. So why am I here again? Like, you all are going to have to come to some level of understanding and compromise. So, and then sometimes you just get short staffed, and then organizations say your priorities are other ways. And so they be like, you all no longer provide mediating services or support. So that does happen.
Okay. So right now, I think we're talking at a granular level as far as feeling, uncomfortable in work environments and toxic environments. What I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, I've seen a lot of think pieces. I've seen a lot of posts. I've seen a lot of things on social media that Black women do not feel comfortable in the corporate America anymore. That we feel that we're being purposely targeted because we have more education. And so we tend to be, one, qualified educationally. Two, because of traditions in our culture, we were told to, you got to do be twice as good than your counterparts, in the other races. And then it seems like because of that, we become targets and have targets on our back. So how can the Black woman move forward in this environment if you're saying as an HR person, and I know you can't speak for all of HR, but what are your suggestions so that we feel safe in our environments? Because I feel that way in my job. Jess Hilarious is talking about that, although I still kind of see where she put that on herself. But I'm not trying to victim blame, but it needed a little research before some things happen. But I'm just saying, so how do we as Black women, how can we feel comfortable? Like, I even saw a piece that said how Black women prefer working from home because we don't have to deal with all those microaggressions at work. What are your thoughts?
I want to acknowledge, like, even there's a level that comes with of my own privilege, and because I am in HR and I'm a senior leader, so when I walk into a space with my title and my recommendation, I'm not asking, I'm telling, and so and that's respectfully, right? But all that to say is there's oftentimes, even at my level, I feel gaslit. It's emotionally taxing. I know that I have to walk in if I'm having 2 or 3 different recommendations. 2 of them may not be the most, I know that in the audience that I'm delivering these recommendations to, it might not be the most favorite because it's in conflict of their goals, their strategic goals. But I got to tell you, I know I have to come there with data. I know I have to sit maybe hours before that presentation and think about who I'm talking to and kind of like pick the individuals down and say, okay, this person's going to ask about this. So how do I bake this into my presentation? But also, how am I prepared to have a talking point to that? I know, and I've seen my white colleagues and peers not have to do that because they come into meetings half-baked, tacking my name onto things and saying, Syd, this is your first time seeing it. And it's like, oh, you playing with me. And I have to nod my head. But oftentimes I've been in meetings and another Black colleague of mine has seen when someone's like, well, Syd, what's your recommendation from an HR point? And I said, well, this seems like it fits squarely into communications. And as a director of communications, I would expect that you have the skill sets in order to carve through some succinct talking points. If you were listening to what I just said 30 minutes ago, you have enough information to provide, put together that piece. I mean, I wish you could see my face. So all that to say is you're going to have to understand that you are going to be gaslit. You are going to you're going to experience those microaggressions. And when you don't have it, you don't have it. So stop showing up like we have it. Dismantle that I'm a strong Black woman. Yes. I'm working at 150%. I'm not strong. I don't have all the answers. So we got to start with ourselves because it started last year because I became exhausted. I had to take a leave from my job because I was performing like a circus animal and saying like, when you say jump, I'm going to be on the 4th floor and you just told me to jump on the box. Right. Yes. So I had to put a whiteboard in front of me and I put in quotes, feel comfortable saying, I don't know. Let me get back to you. That I recognize that statement and that mindset oftentimes just hilarious. You talked about your experience. I talked to my experience. That is uncomfortable because historically and from your own experience, saying that means something different than if it was said by your white peers or colleagues. Yes. But all that to say is I also have to be confident in myself. Like, I know you need me. You need me because that's why you keep calling on me. But also I'm going to, you keep asking me to do everything because you need me. So if you need me, I'm going to tell you, I can't get this to you on this day. I can get this back to you here. I have 10 direct reports. This person has 5. And I have to manage my team and you're asking me to do 7,000 things. Won't be able to do that. I can do 2 of those things and I can actually get it back to you in December. How does that sound? We have to be comfortable, like being our own advocate. Nobody's going to save us. Yes, allyship exists. Yes, I have peers that spoke up for me. I have currently leaders who have created this space for me to be comfortable. But things that are microaggressions mean that even with people who have the best intent, will make a mistake and will make you feel other. And so when you feel that way, you got to speak up. And it might be uncomfortable. It might take you talking to a colleague. It might take you taking a couple of days. Use ChatGPT, talk to your therapist, get the language and just say it. And to be honest, you'd be surprised how people will respond. And if they respond in a way that's inappropriate or it doesn't allow you to be your authentic space or creates a space or they just are dismissive, then you have a responsibility. And I know with all that's going on in the economy, that's easier said than done. You have a responsibility to say, is this the place for me? And if I need my job, then what ways am I going to start stepping back covertly and protecting my peace while still doing my job? So that same strategy we put on for other people, the way we like to, Black women are the most brilliant people in the world. Because at the end of the day, we have all the education, but we still from the hood a little bit. So we know what to do on our big 1s and 2s. So just tap back into her and be the corporate baddie and protect your peace. That was long-winded, but I hope that's how I have some semblance of sanity in a predominantly white space.
Okay. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. And I'm so glad to hear that. Because actually that's what the pieces are saying. Is learning to say, there is no black magic. I mean, we're just us. We're being us. That was a fallacy, and apparently it was just trending. Just for a typical or a small amount of time, just to get us to do more than what we, should have been doing. Also, the whole thing about the superwoman or the strong black woman. We're not strong. We're over here drowning, and I'm saying over here, but I'm saying that as a whole, we're drowning. You're what is it called? Multitasking. Some of us have a husband. We have multiple children. We have multiple jobs. We're doing all of that and not taking care of ourselves, which is also why some of us black women tend to check out of here early, because we're not able to take care of ourselves like we need to, like you said, self-care. And so I'm glad to hear all that. But I'm going to bring it back to Jess and the whole Breakfast Club situation. Because to me, it sounds like Jess has already started to check out. Like when she said that she doesn't come to work as much, she's booking gigs, and and so it seems like she's already quietly quitting, is what I think it's called. And then this is another thing that I thought was interesting, is that the segment Just for the Mess, I saw people taking different perspectives about it, saying that she shouldn't have given it to Loren because she was like, I don't want it no more. So, if you think she does it better, let her have it. And people were saying, you don't never give up your stuff, this, that, and the third. But I actually can relate to that because I actually did that too. And it was because it seemed like holding on to that was causing me emotional trauma. And I was like, I don't want it. And so I was like, you want somebody else to do it and they doing it the way you like it? Let them have it. I don't care. I don't want the credit. Give it to somebody else. Even though it may, behoove her, I guess, to keep like producer credit for that segment because she did create it. What are your thoughts about that? How do people move forward in a situation where they've already began to quietly quit in their head?
You just need to quit. If I hate to say it, I don't have time. The term of shit or get off the pot genuinely pops into my head, and I will acknowledge this is Syd talking. And people will acknowledge also if they've talked to me as form of advisement, even in a corporate space. I have not said should get off the pot depending on our relationship. I might have. Here's the reality. You are quietly quitting. You're disengaged, which means you are going to have decreased productivity. Now you're giving these people reasons to knock on my door to say, I want to terminate the person. So if you are one of, and I know that's not the intent, and I know you said that you've been in the same position, you self-sabotaging. That's sabotage. Okay. You if you are complaining about something on live, that means it matters to you. We all had that homegirl who dealing with a no good dude. And the moment they go silent and you talk like, hey, what's going on with XYZ? Y'all, we ain't been together for 8 months. You didn't know because they shut up about it. So that's literally what it is like, just stop playing. You're still bothered by this. And you still want to be considered. You still want to be included, and her feelings are hurt. And I don't know if I haven't said it already. I think she's well within her right for her feelings to be hurt. I think that they was gaslighting her a little bit, kind of like, don't listen to the comments. She was talking about support. And because they're on a public platform, it's like, no, publicly defend me or publicly big up me. They can jokingly bake in, like, I know people in the comments want to pit Jess against Loren, but Jess did her big things today. Like, just enough as a person what you all need to do to make her feel like what support looks like. And I also have advised people and have asked people, so I'm not prescriptive, hey, what does support mean to you? Because you can ask her very clearly, and it might be something small. So I think Jess, if you about getting some money and you like, I'm checked out of this, then just quit. Or let them slowly start to write you out of the show. That's what it seems like she is okay with. So do that then. If you want to fight for it, to your point, I think creatively, there's a way that she could have thought about asking for production credit or to produce that particular segment. But to my point, when I initially started out, is just doesn't have that office politic experience or coaching or experience. Like, you and I've been in this space, and so we would have easily, like, at that level been like, okay, how can I navigate it? Or I also see it a lack of, and this could be with Black women as well, a lack of mentorship. Like, and somebody to kind of bounce an idea and say, hey, Jess, before you crash out, have you thought about these options? And she like, yeah, no. And then if she decides to crash out, then that's completely on her. So yeah, I think she just needs to decide for herself. If you feel like you're being disrespected in a place and nobody is taking any necessary steps on what you need to fix it, then leave, because you're torturing yourself.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna try and close it out.
Sure.
How do Jess and Loren move forward? Or is it possible to move forward in that situation? Because Loren is saying that, I'm not your enemy, that, I was trying to be there for you and all this other stuff, but you're disrespectful. Like, did you see how Jess says that when she's talking too much, she tells her to hush or shut up? And she was like, I'm a grown woman. You're not going to talk to me like that. So now it's becoming disrespectful. And I think it's really because, in my opinion, Jess is insecure. And now she's taking all that vitriol and lack of support from the job on Loren. She's made Loren a target. So how do they move forward? Is it possible? What would you recommend if you were the HR person in that situation?
I would bring them both into the room, because I think during that discussion or exchange between Jess and Loren, they acknowledged that they have had many of occasions when they have pulled each other aside. Obviously, that's not successful or hasn't been successful. I think it's to the point of what I said. You all need to break down, what does support look like? Like, Jess, tell me. And then Loren, can you agree to that? Like, let's make a decision. Like, do you all agree to that? Are you able to do that? Okay, cool. That's under that list of support. Loren has agreed. This is what support will look like. Okay, cool. That's agreement. Also, to the point about saying shut up and hush, I think don't talk to me like that. But also, I don't think Loren ever backed down from the fact that Jess said you overtalked me. Right? Like, she never disputed that to be the case. So then Loren, I would say, okay, so another point Jess brought up is that you overtalk her, but you said that you don't want her to say hush or shut up. What is an agreed, like, kind of just a fail safe or just a safe word on air? Or is it a signal that you all can give to be like, or something in jest? That's signal. Like bat signal, or jokingly can be like, you can't, I'm not on camera, but it's you touching, like, girl. And y'all both make eye contact, like, oops, whatever, something. So just signal. So that's what I would genuinely, that's what we do in mediating, is you bring both parties together, and we are genuinely making sure everybody is in the office hearing the same thing and have the agreement. And then if that then doesn't, nobody upholds their end of the bargain, then essentially we do got some issues that on the HR side I can follow up through. Like, no, to be fair, you didn't do those things. You continue to tell her to shut up, and she has done. So at this point, I'm gonna have to, now Loren has an official complaint, right? And that can be up to the point of harassment, bullying, like that. Like, if we want to get creative, and then you say, hey, it's consequences to this agreement. Now we putting this in place. So if this goes this way, do we all understand what are the consequences of that? I think that's genuinely what needs to be done. But to their point, they said it's ran like a high school. I don't know if they got HR there, or it's just like a producer that's doing some admin work, and that's why they're in their level of chaos.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for having this discussion with me. I think it was very educational and informative. And it was just nice to see that. I feel like as Black women, we do seem like we're in that same headspace of almost like, we're not going to take it no more. And that we have options, even, to the point where, like you said, even though in this bad economy, we have to make decisions. You know what? I'm going to just bring this up real quick. And I think you do know about this because I forgot. I've known you like 25 years. Anyway, so there was a situation where I was like regarding Henry where I had enough and I quit my job. But I wasn't crazy with it. Like I had 3 months of what is it called? Emergency savings, to last me for a while. But my timing just happened to be bad. That was the beginning of that recession we had, and the economic housing market failed, and all of that. So, what do you think? I know you're not a financial advisor, but like, what are your thoughts that people should have before they actually do decide to say, you know what, I can't take it anymore. It's time for me to stop quietly quitting and quit. Any suggestions?
I think one is important to recognize that your mental health is still protected under FMLA. So one, you need to make sure that you are making a decision in sound mind. So the moment that you feel as though you no longer can take it and you see that as a pattern, then you need to step back so you can make a salient decision. So use the tools afforded to you through your PTO and through the government to ensure that you are making a future forward decision and not an emotional decision. They say never make something in haste. That's the same thing, especially not just in this economy, but this job market is ass. And so, it is very difficult and slim to none sometimes, depending on what you are making, depending on what your overhead is, to find a comparable job. So that sucks. That's part of the being an adult nobody talks about. So take your time out. If you haven't been with your company long enough to qualify for a leave, or if it's too small, then you need to look at maybe some alternative work arrangement, pitching that to your supervisor to see if they have an openness to it. And be vulnerable to the point of just saying, hey, I noticed, right? Like, hey, I noticed that I seem to be a little bit disengaged, and it could be because of this thing. And you may or may not have that safe space. So use discernment in what you decide to disclose, because these are still humans that are making decisions. They are not robots. So take the time off that you can. So we talked about a leave. Navigating some alternative work arrangement where maybe you can work from home a few times a week, or maybe you can have a truncated work week, pitch, working 10 hours a day and having Fridays off. Like, get creative with it and talk to your manager about that. Thirdly, use your PTO. And then fourth, after you've done that, we are looking at, if you utilize all of those things, you're looking at 3 to 6 runway space, 3 to 6 months of a runway space. So as soon as you start navigating those steps and you start to see that you still are not feeling better throughout that entire time, you should always be interviewing and applying to jobs. That's just my personal belief system. Even
don't have me tell them about what you used to do with me. Like, I'm just gonna throw this story in real quick. So, like she said, we worked together, and I actually hired her as an assistant manager. And it was funny because she said, "Yeah, I'm probably only going to be here a year or two, and so I just wanted to let you know before you hired." It's like, okay, cool. And she actually lived up to it. She was out of that motherfucker.
Listen, anybody who has worked with me or I have worked for, they know doggone where I tell them, and I'm not the person like, oh, there'll be signs. No, I told you, right? I tell you I tell my team, I let them know, like, even somebody on my team was like, hey, you said you would be here for 3 years and you're at 3 years now. I'm like, oh, I forgot to give you all a reminder. I was able to broker a promotion, and so now I'll be here at least another year. And I let everybody know. So, I think that's fair. But again, everybody is not me, meaning like my personality. And then there is a little bit of, thank God, of a little bit of privilege that I have had that through my career. So you still have to, I'm of the mindset of what's for you is for you. So I don't know what people's faith, spirituality is, but I choose to believe, like, if you put the effort forth, because I've seen it, and you put it in your mind, you can will anything that you want to come true. You just have to make sure that your steps, which starts with your thoughts, are in alignment. And you have to be accountable to yourself. So all that to say is, if you want to bounce and you want to do something differently, don't, and this is my belief system, and this might sound like a boomer, since now that's pretty much what a millennial is now, is that if you can still finesse and work this job to your benefit and reduce your input, where the output is not actually impacted and people are none the wiser, start thinking about creating another stream of income, consultation, something on the entrepreneurial space, because you got this full-time job to float you. Why not navigate something? Live out your best dreams. You have the opportunity to do that. And then if all else fails and it becomes just insufferable and you have to quit, to your point, I'm saving money. So I didn't say that, but I think that goes without saying. Save money. Like, stop going on a real. Stop Klarna your trips. I mean, we all stop, getting into these financial troubles because you just buy things and do things to make you feel better in a temporary space. Save money. Look at other entrepreneurial aspects or ways in which you can have other streams of income. So if you have to step away, step away. I mean, we've all been there. I've got a story to tell when we all have had to sit down for a second, meaning a couple of years even, and saying like, I need to get myself together in order for me to be on a path where I want to be. So those are the things. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I think you close things out perfectly. I love it. You
That's
said
what I
do. Well, thank you, Syd, for joining us. Do you think you might come back? Maybe if we have another good topic and need your feedback.
I'll be back. I will come back, Miss Chi Girl. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I would love to contribute my ideas to this beautiful space that you've created.
Thank you. All right, guys, that is the end of our show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I know I forget to say that all throughout my video, so I'm going to put little reminders in the video. You're going to see it pop up to say, don't forget to like. Don't forget to like. Anyway, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.